This is how I closed a $10 million deal at Silicon Valley Bank when I was at Oracle using Kanban.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jeff Heilman Project, your go-to podcast for systematizing success. I love it. This is season 4. We're getting started with a whole brand new thing, attempting to simplify a message and provide you with the tools required for you to be successful, not only in business, but also in your family. I will be representing the family side of things while my husband, Jeff, represents the business end of the podcast.
And folks, we are going to try to simplify tools, tips, tricks, mechanisms, ideas, frameworks, dashboards, all of it. But I'll tell you that our goal is really to make the products that we build to be the curation of the very best and brightest ideas of the Jeff Heilman Project.
So here's to the chef's kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
That's right.
For 2026. We're going to be talking today about the Kanban method. And the Kanban method is something that Jeff has applied and used on multiple occasions in his everyday dealing in business. And so, Jeff, I'm going to hand it over to you and see if you can maybe do your best to simplify the idea of Kanban, what it does, and how it has aided you in business over the last couple of years since you've been applying it.
The situation in something that is as complex as high-tech manufacturing and something that is as important for both national pride and national security as the manufacturing of something as complex as automobiles. In the 1950s, in the book The Toyota Way, it chronicles Toyota growing as fast as they possibly could, and Honda would later apply this as well, to becoming literally before Tesla in 2007, 8, 9, becoming one of the largest automobile manufacturers in the world. In fact, the largest, most valuable by market cap automobile manufacturer in the world, even though Ford, Chrysler, and GM had over 50 years head start. And coming out of this devastation in post-World War II, they needed a system to be able to manufacture good, fuel-efficient cars inexpensively, very quickly, and reduce errors. So the situation is, how do we rebuild a country on the back of manufacturing? We do it by overcoming the constraints of disorder, disorganization, trouble, a lack of understanding, a lack of structure. The situation is, we need to rebuild a country. The complication is there's resistance to manufacturing in the form of inventory costs, carrying charge for things in the warehouse and backward, figuring out just-in-time fulfillment, figuring out assembly lines, figuring out how to simplify as much as they possibly could in order to make Toyota successful so that they could compete on a global stage. The implication of this was that they needed a system which appealed to simplicity and a new concept, which I'm reintroducing because it's already been out for a long time, the concept of pull versus push. See, in other words, instead of having an assembly line that says, hey, we need X number of parts to go on this car, we need to go find them, we're going to actually say, hey, there's only so many parts left in a bucket of parts. And so the closer we get to the bucket of parts being consumed, the easier the decision-making process is, and we get to pull versus push. The position that Toyota took was to implement something called Kanban, spelled Kanban, oftentimes in all caps. But it has to do with a process of pull versus push with regard to the organization of tasks themselves. Contrary to what we've talked about in the past, in the realm of Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande, I think I'm saying that right. Standard operating procedures work really well when you do the same repeatable tasks in the same repeatable order at scale. For example, a pre-flight checklist, checking the oil, checking the pitch and roll indicator and the altimeter and the barometric pressure setting to 00. All of these things are part of a pre-flight checklist. And it's the same stuff in the same tasks in the same order every single time. A checklist works really well for those things. There's no arbitrary guesswork in surgery. You have a specific checklist, hundreds of tasks long, broken down into different chunks, broken down into different stages, but they repeat and they're exactly the same. Even in the case of emergencies, in emergency surgery or in an emergency checklist on an airplane, those tasks are the same. Those tasks occur in the same order. They've already been thought out. But then the question becomes, when you have a project that has a bunch of tasks you've never seen before, not only do they not repeat in a certain order, but you may not even know what order they need to be in, or there might be changes to the list itself that happen in real time that change the entire telemetry of the workflow of the project. What do you do if a surgery is a program and you run line 10 to line 110? What happens when you have a project which does not occur in order? It has tasks, some of which may be repeatable, some of which may be ad hoc. And the answer to that question, what we found, is Kanban.
So is Kanban a philosophy of just getting organized, or is it like a Franklin Covey method of A1, A2,
It's a
A3?
Franklin Covey method like A1, A2. Yeah.
So it's actually got specific tasks and objectives in the directive, or is
what it has, and
is it kind of like Santa Claus, kind of like just an idea?
he doesn't show up on Christmas Eve.
He's just an idea.
Coming down your chimney tonight, Elvis. No, what Kanban is it's really two parts, and this is probably a good segue. Number one, it's a list of tasks, which is not too uncommon. The point of Kanban is to have a pull versus push assignment of a status for each task.
Correct. So it's, I recall when you were first looking into Kanban, there was a whiteboard and it had to do with like ABC production. It was a television studio production.
Right.
And you would move your Post-it from active
right.
to, or like needing, you would watch your little sticky note go down the line until complete.
That's right.
And so in the case of an at-home application, if my task is take out the garbage, I write it on a Post-it, I put it on the board for everybody in the family to see, and then when the garbage gets taken out, it goes from being needs to be done.
This would be the simplest way.
Finished.
This would be the simplest way to do it. 3 columns. This is about as simple as you can make Kanban. 3 columns: backlog, working, and done.
Yeah.
And then you would take a 3x5 card or a sticky note, and you would put it on backlog, and you would put a series of these together, and you can ideate in real time. So if you're working on something like, oh, I have an idea, you write it on your sticky note, and then you put it on backlog, and you go back to the thing that you're working on. And so this is the simplest form, and I can give Andrew a picture of this that we can post to fill in the screen for our face.
I believe he has it on our new website, actually, the jeffheilmanproject.com. And he has a template, a downloadable template for the Kanban, the basis structure. I mean, even when you were doing, now that I think about it, originally you talked season 1 maybe, about when you were making cold calls and you were taking a penny and you were putting a penny into a jar. You were actually applying a form of Kanban.
You could say that,
going from one to physically seeing movement of the task go from being begun to finished.
Yep.
Created.
I would have 75 pennies.
A backlog of pennies on the table.
Yep.
In the jar.
And I would take a penny and put it in the every call I would make. And that's how I track, so I knew where I was. And I have a visual, it's a very visual, real-time dashboard. And I would do 150 phone calls a day when I was doing credit card collections.
You got the highest yield on return.
I got the highest
from
yield
your calls.
Because I understood what the actual KPI was, which was not calls. It was net new debtors.
So if I can encourage anyone, whether you're in business or at home, it's such an easy way to get just a whiteboard from Target, draw 3 columns, have a Post-it notes, put on
Yep.
there, everybody can see it as they're walking by. Take out the trash, do the laundry, whatever. Get your column on the left side full of sticky notes and then watch them move as they get completed. And anyone can grab it and anyone can move it along the board as they go in order to accomplish things at scale, which is really where we're going with the Jeff Heilman Project in 2026. In our attempt to encourage you in your systematizing of success is to give you the tools and the things that you may need moving forward to be successful in business, to be successful in family, to come home and know that the laundry's done, the garbage is taken out, one less thing to have to worry about. Wake up in the morning to a clean and tidy home and a clean and tidy mindset.
You don't have to do it this way, but this is how I do it in spreadsheet. This is how I closed a $10 million deal at Silicon Valley Bank when I was at Oracle using Kanban. And it was awesome. So what I did was I had a list of tasks, all these tasks that we have, and I had columns. So the column could be like the project header, the project name, and then the group. So I had 6 or 7 different groups of influencers, and then each influencer had its own project, and each project had 10 or 15 or 20 tasks. So I would have influencer, project name, task name. So I had 3 columns describing what the work was actually being done. But then I had these 4 simple columns, and the columns were backlog, working, review, stuck, waiting, review or needs review, or it's stuck, or we're waiting on something, or done. And then rather than moving the actual tile, because I didn't have ClickUp back then, I would actually check the box as I completed each stage. So all the boxes start off checked for backlog. I would set, and this is an important piece. Please look into my eyes and listen to this important piece. It's important that you set the work limit in advance. For me, I'm just one dude. I'm not a project manager. Not really. So I'm setting a work limit of one thing. I'm only working on one thing at a time. So I have a work limit of 1. So if I check the box of working, that's my thing. That's my thing that I'm doing. And if I get distracted, I can come back and see, oh, I'm just a one thing. And it literally changes your relationship with context shifting. It changes your relationship with dopamine bleed out. It changes your relationship with procrastination. It solves so many problems in cases where you have a project made up of abstract tasks that don't repeat, that are not in any particular order at the beginning. Because each time you finish a project, you go back and look at the remaining list of projects through visual representation, plus any changes that may have come from ideation or iteration of new thoughts. And then you look at the macro list and you pick the next most important thing, which is subject to change based on interruption, based on ideas, based on other people coming in and completing work. Because we don't know. That's the whole thing about an arbitrary project. You don't know. When I use this, just this for my packing list, and I can say, we got a backlog, which means this is the thing we need to pack. Working on, that means I'm looking for the sweater, or I'm looking for a pair of shoes. Review, stuck, waiting. Maybe I ask somebody else to go, pop the trunk and see if my swimsuit is in the trunk, for example. And done. Done means I found the item, I packed it, and the suitcase is in the trunk. Once we've got all these things done, hey, I'm good. But before you get things done, number one, you know right where to come back because of the bookmark that you left off at. The other thing is as you start to run out of tasks without necessarily crossing anything off, you see that done file start to go, you start getting excited and momentum starts to kick in because you're seeing, hey, we're making material progress here on this project. And I can see the visual representation of that. And there's an element of excitement and enthusiasm as you come to close.
For me, a real life application of being able to apply a systematized approach like Kanban to getting something done at home is, for example, this last Thanksgiving when we had 31 people in the house with one oven. And as the primary home and the place where I was making all of the food, because we had a lot of people coming in from out of town, so they were staying at hotels details, I had to sit down with a worksheet and a spreadsheet specifically, going from what does done look like. I think a very important aspect of Kanban or any project management is to recognize what done is. What is done? What does done look like? Because for me, as a engineering type mind and a builder, I really do a lot of reverse engineering from done. And so being able to say, okay, dinner needs to be ready by 4, and then take all of the menu items and see like what should be hot at 4 and what doesn't need to be hot at 4, because I'm operating with some constraints, and that constraint being one oven. And so being able to say, okay, we're having 31 people. I have 3 12-pound turkeys. One's going to be hot. And then you have to reverse engineer between your spreadsheet of timestamps and looking all along the way to go back to the very beginning, which is like 10 a.m. And so being able to move each thing along the spreadsheet, if you will, in each stage, like what time. So starting with the end at mind, 4 p.m., turkey comes out of the oven, to 3, you gotta baste it, to 2, and then being able to look throughout your timeline and be able to say, well, green beans are at, if I put the green beans at 2 p.m. and then they're done at 3, then those don't have to be hot, those can be room temperature. So mentally being able to say and look at a project to scale and say, what does done look like? And then how can done get everyone what they're looking for? Obviously, gravy needs to be hot, but potatoes don't necessarily need to be hot. They can be room temperature, right? Ham is preferred to be hot. And so being able to go through and have a successful system with end in mind and going back through, the priority is always plan. And if you can take the time, I would love to encourage anybody before they apply any system, even with Kanban, to prioritize planning. Give yourself that extra 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even an hour if necessary, to sit down and put together a plan, get your time that's needed to be devoted to see what does done look like within that project, and apply a system like Kanban to where you can physically see, for example, Thanksgiving meal on the board. You can see where you need to be along that mission for the day statement at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 p.m., 1 p.m., and so on. And that's just one example of one of the times when I've had to use Kanban in order to successfully get through a holiday meal. We hope that you found some value in learning more about Kanban and workflow management. And we hope that you would check out the website at thejeffheilmanproject.com. It's brand new. It's got templates. It's got everything that you need. And moving forward, as we continue to introduce new tools to you, we are so grateful and thankful that we are in season 4 and that you will be continuing to like, share, subscribe to these tools moving on in the future. The ability to manage a household of 9 people, 7 kids and 2 adults, with all of the nuances involved, from laundry to food to meals to activities. It could be insurmountable, and it's actually one of the very many questions that I get on a continuous basis is, how do you do it? And my simple answer is one day at a time, but I would think that now I could correct that to say one system at a time, because that's really what it is. It's a successful daily operating system that we have applied, and we hope that moving forward you will see and find that you too can also have successful daily systems in place. Have an awesome rest of your day. See you next week at the Jeff Heilman Project. God bless.
Bye-bye.